and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. It is good to be back with you all. It's been a little while since we've done an episode, but boy, am I glad to be here. I'm here with my good buddy Mark. You glad to be back too, Mark?
Thrilled out of my mind. I can't wait for this, man.
Me neither. I can't wait to talk about Captain America Brave New World. But before we do, a couple of housekeeping items here. We are brought to you by progressivechristianity.org, a wonderful place to get all your progressive Christian resource needs. Also, a great place to look up theological issues surrounding the political concerns that are going on right now. I know that a lot of you are looking for resources for that. So check out progressivechristianity.org. Be sure to follow us on social media and be sure to follow the Moonshine Jesus Show on social media and to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we should let you know that if you have not seen Captain America Brave New World, that we will have some spoilers today. And so it's relatively new. And if you don't want that to be spoiled for you, just know we are going to talk about it in depth. But before we do, we need to pull out some drinks. Do you have a drink today, Mark?
I do. Since the new Captain America used to be the Falcon, and the Falcon is in this show, and I really like the character. He was interesting guy, funny, but also I liked his fighting style and everything. Anyway, I'm having a cocktail called the Falcon. It is just Coca-Cola, dark rum, lime juice, and bitters.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. Pretty good, Mark.
I'm pretty excited about it. How about yourself?
I was, of course, looking forward to seeing Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk in this. And so I have got one called Red Hulk Smash.
Nice.
And it is lemon juice, it's strawberry syrup, and a little bit of bourbon. So we'll see if I get smashed while
Hey, I hope you do. It'll make it'll make for a really fun show.
It happens sometimes, you know, and that's the fun of Moonshine Jesus. So cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers, sir.
We'll have a sip and come right back.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Thank you for staying with us and joining us for our Geek Out segment. Well, listen, what we're going to do here is we're going to let our geek flags fly a little bit. We promise not to spend too much time doing this, although we could spend the whole show doing this just because we're those kind of geeks. But we're going to geek out a little bit at the show, kind of set the scene up, and then we're going to take another break, and we'll move into some theological and political perspectives that come up because of the show and talk about those. But for those who may not be as familiar with what's going on, this is the fourth Captain America movie. In this one, Sam Wilson, who's taken over the role, he's played by Anthony Mackie. He is now fully embracing the mantle of Captain America, and he navigates a complex political landscape as he's called upon by the newly elected president, Thaddeus Ross, who this time is played by Harrison Ford. And he's called on him to help secure a powerful new resource, leading Sam to investigate a conspiracy that implicates his close ally, Isaiah Bradley, who was the first black Cap, and played by Carl Lumbly amazingly. And forcing him to question ultimately who he can trust while he's dealing with the pressures of his new role as this sort of global symbol. So I'm just curious in general, because it's been a few weeks since we watched this, and I'm a little concerned about remembering as well as I usually like to, just because I've seen so many other things between then and now. But I'm just curious.
Same.
Yeah, I understand. A little bit of a worry. I'm curious, though, what are your overall thoughts of the movie?
Well, you know, Mark, I really wanted to like this movie a lot, and I
Right?
went in pretty excited about seeing the movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, I I gotta admit, it was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting invested in the characters, and I shouldn't have had a hard time because we've known these some of these characters for a long time. They're all great actors, and I think, man, I think it had to do with the script. I think it had to do with the writing here, but
Yeah.
it was hard. It was kind of hard to watch. It was not what I wanted it to be. How about you?
Yeah.
What was your impression of it?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, and I think your analysis is right on point. It was the writing. The acting was actually incredible. Our three main leads, I would argue, are Ford, Mackey, and Lumbly, are,
Yeah.
are are incredible. They are exceptional in their roles. They really are. But the writing is, Caleb, there are, I think, I counted 7 people credited for writing this. Like,
My God.
how
Yeah.
in the world do you expect any like consistency? And I know
Yeah.
that they
I didn't
did.
even know that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like, this is kind of all over
Yeah,
the
it's
place
all
here.
over the place, and you can't quite
Yeah.
figure it out. And there's not really
Yeah.
enough good character development. I mean, we
Yeah.
get some character development just because the actors are so good.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, I know there was like was it 28 or 32 day reshoot, which is a long reshoot,
That's a
which
lot.
means it, which means it all had to be edited back in. Yes, I'm with you. I found it, I didn't dislike it.
Yeah.
I found it very mid, very kind of
Yeah.
average. Just, it was okay. There were
That's a
great moments.
but I've got to give props to you for using a Gen Alpha word,
Right?
mid. That's
Yeah,
that's
you're
very
welcome.
that's
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
Omega
Thank
of you.
Ooh, well done.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
It was very mid. It was kind of a run of the mill. Could be any
Mhm.
Marvel movie. It's not going to stand out. I don't think it's not going to be one that we're talking about, which is really
Right.
unfortunate, especially with the changeover of
Yeah,
the Captain America.
Yeah.
It would have been great if they had really been able to.
There was so much
make this work.
opportunity for that. And so I guess
Yeah.
one of my questions to you was going to be, and I think I already know the answer just based on both of our responses here. So where does this one, and out of the 4 Cap movies, where does this one rank for you? Is there one that isn't quite as good as this one?
I think they're all better than this one.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree, which
War's
is
my
really
favorite.
unfortunate.
I really like Civil War. That one's my favorite. But yeah, I think they all rank above this one, unfortunately. You place it the same way?
I do, which is pretty remarkable because unlike most people, I am not a big fan of any of the Captain Americas. I think they're fine.
Yeah.
And the fact, so that means that my ranking was low enough that this one could have easily blown away.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, man. It just
Yeah.
didn't. And here's one of the, this next question is part of the reason why I hate that it didn't.
Yeah.
And we can come back to that statement after I ask you the question. How does Sam Wilson's Captain America differ from Steve Rogers in terms of like leadership and fighting style, and like what are the things that stand out for you in the differences?
Well, I mean, I think one thing that they did do a good job of capturing here is that he didn't have any super serum. Like, he chose not to do that,
Right.
and so he's just a regular human being, and so he gets hurt, and so we see that both in him getting hurt in the movie and in the way that he approaches taking risk. And we see that as a dynamic in the new Cap's relationship with the new Falcon. That they're more cautious. And so I think that theoretically is something that's good for Marvel, because we've got all these super soldier type people who are able to to do whatever without much risk. And so a more human character. I think though that Chris Evans was very charismatic as Captain America,
Right.
and I think that really came through. I think that's something that that remains to be seen, whether or not this Cap has the same kind of charisma to
Yeah.
pull people in. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way, but it's
Yeah. I
a little bit
kind
harder to
of
watch.
like him.
Yeah,
I think that he is charismatic in his own way. He commands
yeah,
attention. He's someone you're invested in and you care about and you're interested in. But I really, this is what part of why I wish would have been better written, because
yeah,
I sort of like his Captain America better. I
yeah,
like that he is more human, more vulnerable. I
yeah,
like that he has to be more of a strategic leader. He can't just rush in and pound somebody,
yeah,
into submission. Uh, I like that he has to rely on his combat skills and his flying skills. I like that he has to pull people together. It isn't
yeah.
always just going at it on your own. So there's so much about him as a character that, for me, should give us all more hope. Like, I don't have to have a super serums to do something super. Like,
Yeah.
it, I can pull it together. Each of us have the possibility. I like that about his character, and I think they wasted the opportunity to pull more of that out and to build that up and kind of help. We are going to identify more with his Captain America than we'll ever do with Chris Evans.
Yeah, and and Anthony Mackie he's a great actor. And
Incredible,
I
yeah.
think maybe the other piece going on here is that before the first Avengers movie, we had the Hulk movie with Edward Norton, right? And then
Yeah, right.
obviously it's recast. And then we had Iron Man 1 and 2,
Yep.
and then we had the first Captain America movie, right? And then everybody's together, right? Would that happen before the Thor movie too, right?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and so like
Just barely. I think Thor was basically
was
the next
right
in
around
the
the same
next one
time.
or two. In the next
And
one or two after that.
I think that's something that the first phase of Marvel had going for it is when we met
Mhm.
all these new characters, or we met all the characters, then they were together pretty quick,
Yeah.
and that really formed a team that you cared about, and so you were invested. I think maybe that's just one of the weaknesses of this phase of Marvel is that
Mm.
that we're not seeing everybody together, and it's hard for me in some ways to be as invested in the characters as I was in
Yeah.
previous phases. And so I would really love to see the same kind of energy that we had up to in game. I would love to
Yeah.
see
I
that
hear
this,
that.
I really want to care as much
Yeah.
as I used to about everybody. And I think that maybe that's part of it is that we haven't had the same kind of massive crossover that I think I
Yeah,
would love to see.
and obviously they keep pointing towards we're going to have even a larger, massive with the
Right.
Thunderbolts and the reassembling the Avengers, and we've got
Yeah.
rumors of a West Coast Avengers and
Yeah.
probably a young Avengers. Like we're
Yeah.
going to, and the X-Men are going to be joining. I mean,
Right.
we're about to see a massive group, and I think that that's one of the things that they again wasted here was this was a great opportunity to start pointing more strongly to all of those, to establishing a more solid and wider foundation to build those off of. And
Yeah.
they couldn't even get the characters written in a way that would bring us in, and they needed to do both. They needed to make us care about these relatively new characters, but also set a more solid foundation for building up these multiple types of Avengers that we're going to see. Different question, completely different
Yeah.
question. Why didn't we see the Hulk, man? I mean, we got the Red Hulk. We've got the leader who's Hulk brain.
Yeah.
Why
I
in the
I
world did we not see this?
m- my thought on that was that they really wanted to try to establish Anthony Mackie's Captain America on his
Mhm.
own without pulling from on people from the past. But I think it would have maybe lent a lot of not credibility, but it would have the movie would have felt different if the Hulk had been there, and maybe some more humor in there as well if he had been there.
Yeah,
So I kind of felt like it was a missed opportunity not to have
I'm
the
with you.
Hulk there. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think the other thing maybe that I felt real disappointed about is that we really didn't get to see much Red Hulk in here. It was
Hmm.
just kind of at the end. And didn't
I
we
agree.
all want to see the Red Hulk and regular Hulk duke it out? Isn't
Of
that what we
course.
wanted to watch in this movie? And so
Of
maybe
course.
that's another part of it is sometimes give the people what they want. And,
Yeah, I completely agree. And talking about the Red Hulk, you know, the people wanted the Red Hulk, and we only get the Red Hulk really at the end. And what we get a lot of, we get a lot of great Harrison Ford because there's no Red Hulk, because we get to watch him trying to stop the Red Hulk. And he, I thought, was exceptional, seeing the anger and the frustration and I mean, he's just, I love Harrison Ford. He's, you know, great.
yeah, and he really played it up. You're right. He
Oh,
really
so
was
well.
in it because
So
sometimes
well.
you know it's clear he's not real.
But you
into
know,
it, but he was. Yeah.
I would make the argument. Here's a guess. I think most of the rewrites and reshooting were the first half of the movie, and that the last half was always kind of what it was going to be, because the last half of the movie wasn't actually that bad, man. The last half of the movie was pretty engaging. I bought into it. I was interested. I was enjoying all of the fights and all of the. Yeah, I think they missed real opportunities for sure. Final question related to all of this, and I started to hint at it and then got pulled off because all of a sudden I remembered, oh yeah, why wasn't Hulk in there? What do you think the quality of this movie means for Marvel movies going forward, as well as the future of Cap?
Yeah, I wondered if he was going to get another standalone movie after this because it's been kind of panned as well, and so I would
Monetarily, it's done okay. They made
Yeah.
money off. They made money off of this, and it had a good opening week. But yes,
But the
agreed, it's
critics
been
have not.
panned by the critics. And at this point,
and
man,
audience.
at this point, critic, like
I know. I mean, they
I'm
get a
kind of
lot
done
of
with
stuff
critics.
wrong.
I don't
I
even
know.
pay attention to critics much anymore,
Yeah,
honestly.
I know.
And I used to
Especially-
be. I wanted to be a critic for a long time. As a matter of fact, I wrote movie reviews for a little short period of time there, and even my first undergraduate degree was in English with a focus on film. But I so don't care about critics anymore. It'd be hard to care less about
if
critics.
they've turned you off from their stuff, then they've really messed up, and they really have. They've gotten a lot of stuff wrong, especially when it comes to superhero movies. I think recently that clearly audiences and critics are pretty divided. But on this one, I think they're right on. So I don't know. I do think that overall, I love that Marvel right now is trying new creative approaches. I love that we're seeing new different characters. The execution, though, of how it's all been done leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand.
No, I'm with you. I think they missed a giant opportunity to set up everything that needed to be set up in this new phase that we're entering into. There's actually so little of the new phase in it. There's a few verbal mentions of it, and it's just that part. I'm very sad about that. I feel like they're going to probably have to do more work in the upcoming movies to set that foundation now, because they didn't do it here. And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate because there is so much potential for excitement in all of these different Avengers that I just named. There is so much excitement and so many new characters and new ways that the groups work together and interact together that we could be doing that we're going to be missing out on. And I hate that they didn't do a better job. Okay, listen, we could keep geeking out. As a matter of fact, I would keep geeking out because there's so much I want to unpack about this. But more importantly, we need to get on to talking about the Theo and political aspects of this movie. So let's take a quick drop, refresh our drinks, and come back on the other side with our Theo Politico segment.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're entering our Theopolitico segment, so we do like to geek out for a while, and then we like to come back and talk about theology and politics. And one thing that was interesting about this show is that we did get to see a whole lot of the president and the presidential office. And one of the things that we have learned about President Ross and his time before he was President Ross is that he is volatile. He is unpredictable. And in fact, we see him throughout this movie trying to fight his I guess inclination to be volatile. And so, Mark, I'm curious, what is it like to have a volatile person in the White House? And how should we as a country deal with having someone who is volatile in the White House?
It's hard for me to really say since we have a stable genius in the White House.
He is. It's verified. It's verified by him. He is
by him that he is a stable, very stable genius. Look, it is a frightening thing, frankly. And that's the only reason, really, I ended up laughing at that.
Yeah.
To having someone who's so volatile and unpredictable, it puts us all at risk. And when I say risk, there's small risks of just making life difficult and uncomfortable because of the price of eggs, whatever. There's also the risk that happens. Every decision he makes can cause people to die. And he's already within a very short window of time, 2-ish months, making decisions where people are dying because of it. Is frightening. That's what happens when you have a person that's volatile, has that much power in charge. There's lots of other things that happen. As far as I'm concerned, as a person who follows the teachings of Jesus and sees the core of that being about love and caring for each individual person, that's the most dangerous part of having a person who is so unstable, leading you and being in that position. What do? We resist. We have to not get tired of resisting, which is hard to do because right now they're using strategy to throw as many things at us as humanly possible so that we feel overwhelmed and can't deal with it all. And here's the thing: don't deal with it all. They win if you try to address all of it. Pick your top 2 or 3 issues that are going on and be just laser focus on resisting that, showing up to protest, being on social media, speaking out about it, showing up at local politicians' offices and joining protests, writing letters to them, and then boycotts and blackouts. They are incredibly effective. It's hard. They take a little longer for the effect to be felt because the large corporations and the wealthy folks are going to try to wait them out. They're going to try to make you feel like they're not working, but they are working. We've already seen that they're working. Sometimes it's not quite what we want. But off the top of my head, those are some of the things that we can and must be doing because this is the most radical leadership we have ever had in this nation. And it is dangerous. It's dangerous in so many ways. So I'll stop. I could do the rest of this whole segment without your input, just going through all of this because, and I know you could do the same, but what are your thoughts?
It's tough, man. We were talking this morning, like, do you think he even reads executive orders, or are we just putting out as many controversial executive orders that come across the desk as a tool for distraction? And I mean, they do have real impacts, but they are also doing exactly what you said, distracting. I really loved what you said, Mark, about picking the one or two things that you can get really passionate about. Because one thing that I've heard from a lot of people is that it just feels so overwhelming, and it is
It
overwhelming.
is.
What do
Yeah.
you do whenever every day it's a new thing, and it feels like more and more rights are being taken away? It feels
Yeah.
like we're getting closer and closer to destabilization of democracy. And I think that that's really smart. I think it's also smart for us to not let the insanity that is currently in the White House stop us from living our lives, because that
Mm.
also is a way that they win. You know, like if you're deprived of joy and you're deprived of hope and you can't function in life, that's also what they want. And so
Yeah.
if we're able to continue to live our lives, we're able to continue to find joy and hope and love, that also is an act of resistance. And I think, like, if we're overwhelmed and we can't think of what to do, being
Yeah.
able to live your life too, especially if you come from a marginalized community and you're able to just live, your existence is
Is a
equal to
resistance.
everything. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I like that. Your existence is a resistance. It really is. I was talking to someone yesterday about, I had always wondered how in 1930s Germany they could have allowed the descent into fascism. And then looking around, I'm like, oh, like this. Oh,
Right.
like this is how it happens. So I like that, Mark. Thank you very much. Another thing that we saw in this movie that I thought was really interesting is that we
Mm.
saw people being controlled by a series of sequences played on cell phones and all, and it was easy to do because you know that people are going to look at their cell phones at some
Yeah.
point. So, Mark, we've seen a lot of conversation, particularly in the past 3 months or so, about social media, its role in politics, and how it controls or either controls people or liberates people.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? And what's your
Yeah.
what's your view on how social media is going, especially with the Trump administration?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think that social media, just in general, is over villainized, and I'll get to why
Mhm.
I think that's the case. I do think we need to be aware because social media, for the largest part, is owned by billionaires who are. It's in their best interest to see Trump be successful, and so we need to understand that one of our best tools, and that's why I think it's been over villainized. Social media is a tool. We need to understand that one of our best tools is controlled by folks whose interest isn't the same as our best interest. But we do need to recognize that it's a tool. It's like any tool. I can use a hammer to build a house. I can use a hammer to smash your car windows in. You've got to recognize that all tools can be used for positive or for negative. It's all about the who's wielding it and how are they using it. And so I think it's really important to not just inactively, unmindfully engage in social media. I think it's also important to take breaks. But I think that what we have to do is recognize why we're using it, how we're using it, and always be doing so through a filter of who's controlling the information I'm seeing, and am I seeing the larger picture?
Yeah.
That's something
Yeah.
I'm passionate about, and I could again. You're asking all the questions that causes Mark to step up on soapbox, but I will leave it right there, and I'm very curious to hear your perspective on it, though.
Well, I know you and I both love social media, spend a lot of
Mhm.
time on social media. It's
Yep.
it's important. I mean, we run an organization that is based online
On
primarily.
right.
So I
It's an
mean,
all
it's
yeah.
important. Uh but yeah, I think the piece you're talking about also recognizing that when we go on, we always need to go on with lenses about who's controlling the information. I think
Mhm.
that's real important, especially when we think about like getting rid of fact checking and
Yeah.
all of that. That like a lot, just because you see it online doesn't mean that it's true.
Right.
And I feel like we used to say that a lot. And for some reason that has that people think if they see it
That's
online,
fair.
it makes it seem like it's true. And so I
Mhm.
think we all need to go in with those glasses that, like, the way the world is set up now, we can't really function without social media, or at least I
Yeah.
can't. It's a large part of what I do in my job. It's a large part of how I live my life, how I feel connected with family and friends. Like, it is just a part of my life. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why it also becomes increasingly important to make sure that free speech is not controlled by the platforms. And I think this is going to be necessary in lawsuits. And I think this is something that
Yeah, you're right.
in legislation, this is something that my perspective has changed on over the years. Like, whenever
Mhm.
social media first started and I was first on social media, I'm like, well, this is just a resource, and if people don't like it, they don't have to use it, and all that kind of stuff. And my
Mm.
perception of that has changed a
Changed,
lot
yeah.
over the years. As more and more people have gotten on, we become more and more dependent. And, like, no, if you're limiting free speech on social media, you're just limiting free speech, because for a lot of
Yep.
us, this is primarily how we live our lives. So I've got one more question I want to sneak in here in the
Mhm.
last few seconds, Mark.
Dude,
So
you know how good I am at answering precisely and
good.
keeping
Yes.
it short. So I'll do that.
Yes. We'll see if this is another soapbox issue. So when we deal with leaders who are out of control, either because they have their own issues or because they're being manipulated or whatever, it becomes
Right.
increasingly important for checks and balances to work. And I think one thing that we've seen in the United States is that checks and balances haven't been working real well.
Yeah.
So, what should, say, Democratic Congress people be doing to keep the president in check?
Wow, that is a difficult question.
Good thing we had plenty of time in the segment before I asked it.
I'm going to try to keep it as concise as possible. One, they need to be more vocal about standing up and over and against, because it gets covered when it does. We already seen that with his address to the nation, or to Congress in the State of the Union. We had the one senator that stood up, and we need more people doing that. We need more legislation introduced to regulate and control the president. Even realizing that it's not going to pass, it's important to introduce it to show that we're not just backing down. We're not stepping down. We need a lot more energy and effort for the midterms. I'm really quite worried, particularly from a former historian and ex-Republican who recently wrote an article that talked about the likelihood of Trump trying to even stop the midterm elections. We need more of that. We also need our elected officials putting a lot more energy and showing a lot more resistance in the appointments to judgeships. I'm going to keep it there to try to keep it as concise as possible. That was my quick take on it. What do you say? Thinking?
Yes, I think they can do one thing to be more vocally opposed and to have a united front. I think,
Yes.
like, whenever then there was talk about censuring that Democrat,
And he was censured. And
it was
10 Democrats
10
voted.
Democrats, right? So, like, those 10 Democrats should not have voted
Right.
for that.
And they should
so
not get reelected. They should not get
No,
reelected.
that's right. There need to be consequences, and I think
Yep.
that they okay. So Congress needs to be more vocal, and they need to be telling their constituents what they're doing. They need to be talking to constituents frequently, like, and on social media and stuff too. They need to be showing what they're doing to resist. But
Yes.
I think just broadly on the left, we've got to continue to work to unite too, to find a unified front. So
Agreed.
I'd love to talk about all that much more too, but
I am going to slip
Yeah.
one more thing in, and it's
Yeah.
really quick. One of the things that the Democrats need to be doing is holding town halls. Since Republicans have just said from the very top, there are no more town halls because they're meeting so many folks that their own constituents who are angry at them and don't like what they're doing. Democrats need to hold their own town halls, invite Republicans so they can be heard, particularly those folks who are not happy with what their party's doing.
That's a great idea, Mark. Yeah, listen, Congress people, listen to Mark's political strategy. It'll be good for you. Hey, look, I would love to talk about all this more, but if we do, we won't get to our favorite segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment. So why don't we take a break, take a drink, and come back and try and make each other look stupid?
Welcome to our Make Me Look Stupid segment. It's a segment where we proceed to try to make our co-host look stupid, or sometimes admit that we feel stupid and ask a question for a little clarity, or sometimes we even ask the other co-host to make a prediction so that they might look stupid in the future. Today, I'm going to admit that I don't know if it's going to make either of us look stupid, but it is this point of real curiosity for me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, and this might come down to the fact that there were 7 freaking writers or 8, whatever the number was. All right. So in context of the movie, at a time of potential global conflict, you know, as they're all trying to get to the island, Celestial Island, get the adamantium.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the rest of Earth's heroes? Why was Captain America the only hero? We were having a showdown. There were countries. Where help?
I know. I mean, it's the same thing. Not only is it like the bad writing, because it's also inconsistent with the way things have typically worked in Marvel, that they haven't been afraid to bring other heroes into the movie. It's not like there's a long history of standalone movies being really standalone movies in the MCU. That's just not the way it works. But like, it also was a missed opportunity, just like with the Hulk, that if we had some other characters that we hadn't seen in a while even come back, or if there was some kind of a reveal there as somebody comes, I think that would have strengthened the movie as well. I mean, not only would it have strengthened the writing, but I think people would have been more engaged if we'd gotten to see some other heroes there. So I think you're right. I think it comes down to the same problem that plagued the rest of the movie. What's your perspective? Is there an in-universe explanation? Are they all off fighting?
I think that's the actual problem. Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's the actual problem, is that when you look at the timeline, there's not, at least at this moment, an in-universe explanation. I hope that maybe one of the it's not going to happen, but I hope that one of the future movies maybe shows that at the same time this thing was happening, and everyone trusted that Cap could take care of this issue because there was this much bigger issue that everyone else. Even that, I'm going to be like, well, maybe 1 or 2 of you could have helped out because there's hundreds of them. But that's fine. Just leave it to Cap. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's bad writing. I think that's the explanation, unfortunately.
Okay.
Oh well.
Maybe the next one.
Hit me with your best shot. Let's do this.
Okay.
Hit me with your best shot.
All right. Okay. I've got a question, Mark. It has to do with the post-credit scene. And so in the post-credit scene, we find out
so beautifully shot on green screen. It was just one of the best horrifically shot green screens I've ever seen. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry. That wasn't your question. It wasn't your question.
That just fits into the broader context of the magic that was this movie. So, okay, so they make a reference.
Wait a minute. The magic that was this movie. I liked Red Hulk. I thought Red Hulk looked great.
You know what?
Genuinely.
You know what? Kudos. Yes. Kudos to that. And Harrison Ford, he played it up. I really was impressed with Harrison Ford, because I did feel like he gave it his all. And the dude is 82 freaking years old.
And here's the thing. So
Uh,
Anthony Mackie was
Yeah.
one of the producers for this.
Yeah.
And he said there were moments when they're filming where he had to step out of the actor role and walk over to Harris and say, "Hey, dude, man, you need to calm down the physical activity a little bit. We've got you.
Yeah.
You need to make it through this movie." Like he
Yeah.
was so committed that Anthony was actually like concerned for his well-being, which is
And I mean,
awesome. That sounds
how
so Harrison Ford, right?
and how on earth? I guess it's just because he's Harrison Ford, but like, how on earth is he doing this? He's got like 2 TV shows. He's got Shrinking in
Yeah.
1923, right? And then
Mhm.
he's been in these like huge blockbusters and stuff too. Like, man, I hope
Yeah.
to just be like upright when I'm 82.
Exactly.
So, okay, but here's my question about that poster.
Yeah, please.
They make a reference to the others. Who do you think the others are?
We're as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about the multi-universe. We're about to head into a convergence of many universes and many heroes from many universes, and which also means that we're going to see the convergence of many villains. And so I think that that's definitely what he's talking about, because I believe this is all leading up to, if you're not a comic book fan, I apologize for this, but because you won't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure we're heading up to Battle Earth, where we're going to have the massive continents with all of the different sub. I'm sure that's where we're going, and I think this was like kind of the first in movie tip of the hat to this is about to happen. So it's all of the different universes, all the different heroes, all the different villains, and he's just saying, "Oh, you think you got it bad now? Just wait. It's just getting started." That's my guess. What do you think?
Well, I've seen a lot of speculation about the Illuminati, who we
Mhm.
saw gathered in
Yeah.
the last Doctor Strange movie, and so
Yep.
a different group of the Illuminati. And I'm kind of hopeful that that's who this is going to be, and that we're going to get to see them again
Yeah.
with different characters. So we'll see. But that's I'm
Yeah.
going on that
I'm,
train.
I'm with you. I think we'll get an Illuminati for the universe that movie is sat in. I think we're going to get an Illuminati. It's not. I don't think because of the characters that are available right now, I don't think it's going to be perfectly reflective of any of the Illuminati in the comics. But we're going to get one, and it should be pretty interesting in terms of who is picked for them.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it's also going to be different than the last one we saw. I think it's going to be a different group of people, and so
Mhm.
that might be kind of fun,
It
and
should be. Yeah.
it might be fun. And we know that Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as
Doctor
Doctor Doom,
Doom.
and so I think any kind of having Robert Downey Jr. in any way is good. He kind of was the
Yes.
heart of the multiverse, or the
Yeah.
MCU, and so I think
Mhm.
having him there may be a grounding source as we continue to fumble a little bit in the MCU. So
Yeah, fair enough. Well, listen, I think that's all exciting. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Even in spite of this movie, which is worth watching, but it's probably worth waiting till it streams to watch. I'm still excited about the future of Marvel because of all the things that are being set up. I'm very hopeful about it. And the Fantastic Four is about to come out, one of my all-time favorites. Daredevil, which was also one of my favorite heroes, and the first three seasons were incredible. I've watched the first 2 episodes. Like, there's so much good going on. So there's still a lot. As much as we couldn't get as excited about this as we had originally hoped, there's still a lot to be excited about in the Marvel Universe. But let's step outside of the Marvel Universe, because we need to pick something for next week's show, and I have a suggestion for you.
okay.
Have you heard about the Russo's brothers movie that's dropping direct to Netflix called The Electric State?
I've maybe heard a little bit about it, but I don't
Yeah.
know much about it.
So it at least has the makings. It at least has the potential for something really good and interesting. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, Stanley Tucci. I'm pretty sure Anthony Mackie makes an appearance in this. I think Esposito from the movie makes an appearance in this. So we've got a lot of names in it.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's sort of set in a retro futuristic 1990s, and it follows a orphan teenager who's brown, traveling across a dystopian America with a mysterious robot and eccentric drifter, played by played by Chris Pratt, and it's all in an effort to find her brother. It at least has the makings of something quirky and fun and different. So, what do you
And
think? You want to go
that
there?
I think that sounds good, and I love how we're stepping outside the Marvel universe with
Yeah.
a bunch of actors from
Right,
the
from the Marvel universe.
yeah.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I'm
but-
there. Let's do it. Let's
All
go
right.
for it. I like it.
Excellent. So that's what we'll be doing next week. Everybody, catch it. It drops on, I think, this Friday on Netflix. It looks to be quirky and fun and interesting, and we'll talk about it next Monday on the Moonshine Jesus Show. Thank you all. We're glad to be back. We're finally back in the groove, so we should be regular again, and we appreciate you being here. We can never thank you all enough for listening and giving us a reason to do this show. It is our favorite, best part of the week. So thank you all, and we will see you the next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.